Hey, how you doing? So, good morning. My apologies. I attempted to get this started at 8:15 and I scheduled it, but then for some reason I wasn't able to pop into it. So, coffee with Coach, guys. Got my coffee. I'm the coach. It looks like I have two people here. Which thanks for jumping in. One person. That said, if anybody wants to kind of have anything come out and discuss any sort of questions or comments about what's going on, go ahead and pop those questions into the chat. I'm happy to run through them with you. Otherwise, I'm going to go into a bit of a conversation about RPE, which I can kind of discuss. So, yeah, go ahead if you're in chat and you want to shoot off a question. Go for it. And I will have to find out why that didn't work before, but we'll figure that out. This is an example of a question. For instance, just shoot it right into the chat. This was the question that I was going to go over if nobody else wanted to throw something out there, but I do see somebody else is in here. I have a sneaky suspicion I know who it is, and that's okay. So just go ahead and toss it out there, and we can go from there. We can benefit from a solid conversation. Right. And again, guys, good morning. Thank you for joining me. I'm Coach Krug from Krug's Kinetics. Just kind of starting off, I want to open the floor to people who just want to shoot out any questions for me about either Krug's Kinetics, about fitness in general. And then I'm going to answer it to the best of my ability because that's what I'm super passionate about. It's about helping people the best I can. And I don't want to have a paywall necessarily associated to that. I'd love for people to join me, jump into my app and do all that stuff. But that does not mean that that is the end all. For what it is, there's so much information out there. A huge part of why I'm stepping into Krug's Kinetics and trying to do this is because there is so much vast information out there that it's dramatically saturated in the sense that it's incredibly overwhelming. And for people who don't spend their 9 to 5 trying to learn how to be a personal trainer, I'm absolutely positive that it can be overwhelming, and it can absolutely be something from my experience from coaching clients and from just, working out in general. It's something that people have a really hard time with kind of figuring out. And, even with that access to pure knowledge, it's what is good knowledge and what's not. So I wanted to open up this floor just to kind of have a conversation with Coach kind of vibe while I'm drinking my morning coffee, and we can chat a little bit before 9, before it gets too late. But I'm not seeing any actual questions pop up here, guys. So I'm going to give it till 5 minutes. And then I'm going to start with this problem. And any sort of questions, guys. It can be as simple as, if I don't know the answer, like let's say that let's pretend like you asked me a question, like for instance, what are the 10 best reasons to eat fiber, right? I'm not a dietitian. I could give you, I would probably just jump into, a search engine, read something off of it like that. I'm not going to pretend like I know more information than I do. And I'm very okay with saying I'm not positive. And, I would research that more and go from there. Yeah. But I do know quite a bit. I've been putting a lot of time into this for most of my life. So, again, guys, I'm only going to give it about 10 more seconds before I start going into RPE. So please ask me any questions. Okay, guys. So as advertised, I'm just going to get into what RPE is and why it's important, specifically not only to Krug's Kinetics, but to just working out in general. So what is RPE? Have you heard about RPE? Has anybody talked to you about RPE? RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion. Now, what does that mean in layman's terms? It means how hard does this feel? Like, how hard am I working? Your rate of perceived exertion is going to be what your brain thinks you're putting out there as far as your maximum effort. So that's a consideration to understand what's going on here in terms of what that means as far as overall effort versus what that's supposed to translate to. That's going to be right here. I'm going to point that right into the chat. Let's see. Oh, maybe it's too much. Let's see. So that's going to be somewhere between 1 and 2. It's going to be very easy. You're going to get no real exertion, no heart rate increase, nothing like that. Then from 3 to 4 is going to be light effort. Then you're looking from 5 to 6. Obviously, that's going to be on a scale of 10. So that's going to be right in your moderate range. Then you're going to be shifting towards your challenging and more difficult reps are going to be in your 7, 8. And then 9 to 10 is going to be your very difficult, and 10 being your maximum effort. Now, why is that important for working out? Because most people have a tendency to think that their body is in zones like, let's say, like that challenging zone, when in reality, they're actually in a zone which is significantly lower. Now, it's important to, as you are working through your phases and as you're working through just fitness in general, to consistently be pushing that envelope and trying your best to make sure that you are in a position to have a higher RPE. That meaning that you're actually exerting yourself during these exercises. Now, how do you do that safely? Now, that's going to be the trick of it, really. Excuse me. That's where you're going to have to combine a lot of other skills. You're going to have to make sure that you're not going too hard. One, you have to make sure that you're evaluating where you are in relation to where you are in your fitness journey, right? So for instance, if somebody's just beginning, a lot of times we get this like, oh, I'm going to go back to the gym. I'm going to get really in shape. And I've seen it so many times where people come to the gym. They are so ready. This time is the different time. This time is the time that they're going to make all the difference. So they go to the gym, and instead of going 3 or 4 times a week, they end up going 7 times a week, but they do it for a month. They end up going way too hard, which means that their RPE, their perceived rate of exertion was probably too high, as well as their actual rate of exertion. They end up hurting themselves and then they end up injured, right? So it's like you have to figure out where and how to apply what you're doing. And unfortunately, especially with people who are not younger, and I mean younger as in people in that, like, let's call young people, young adults, let's say that 20 to 30 department is the young adult department, where frankly you're playing with all the right pieces on the table. If you're having a hard time with fitness and you're not out of your 30s, I got news for you, brothers and sisters. You're in for a rude awakening, because you have everything lined up to be in the best health possible. Father Time ain't gonna be making it any easier for you down the line. So that said, ultimately, it's important to understand that as you're working through fitness, this RPE is something that people tend to just not realize. Like, especially me, I've found in my own personal experience that I realized, like, partway through, I'm like looking at myself and I'm counting my reps and I'm like, holy crap, I'm not working close to as hard as I used to. Like, because it's become such a habit, you realize, like, wow, I'm not sweating or really pushing or grunting my way through those last few reps. Like, and you really evaluate it and you're like, wow, I'm actually only putting in about a 6 effort here. And you really got to kind of take those things into consideration. So what is it mostly used for, and why is RPE important? So most trainers use it as a way to kind of see where you're at. It is going to be something that's going to fluctuate. Sleep is going to play a big role. Stress will play a role. Lack of recovery is going to play a role. So it's going to be important for you to understand that you need to be able to have variables here. There's going to be days where your best is your best and you can push harder, bigger, better, faster. And there's going to be some days where your best is going to be a different version of your best. And that's where RPE plays. All right. So in terms of how to do that for what we're doing for the elemental cycle training, right? So air is going to be, the prime the body motions. This is where we're going to be about air and control, stability, coordination, breathing, body awareness, looking for, neuromuscular connection and really trying to bring the body and mind together. This is going to also be your phasing for people who are, pre or post rehab, people who are injured, things like that. So this is going to be somewhere where you can make things incredibly tough, but you can also dial things back. RPE generally here is going to be in that 5 to 7 range. Movement quality matters significantly more. It's about really challenging the motion, really owning the motion. You're going to feel challenged, but you don't want to feel like you're completely shaky leg and destroyed here in the air phase. So air should be trying to teach you, in the stability air component is going to be control before the chaos. You're going to want to be in control. You're going to want to keep it in that 5 to 7 range because the rep range is going to be so much higher, and you're going to be in a place of instability generally, or you're going to be in a place of trying to prime both the tendons, muscles, and you're kind of working your body into the regularity of fitness itself in the air phases. So if we were to apply this to, for instance, water. So water is going to be where we're building endurance and flow. Water will be the introduction of longer periods of sustained effort. This is going to be where we're going to kick that up a notch. So we're going to shift a tad into kind of that 6 to 8 department. Fatigue is definitely going to gradually accumulate over time. This is where breathing becomes a major factor because of how much more tired you're going to be. And also, water is going to be all about our flow regulation, and it's going to be about moving through discomfort as it arrives and pushing past it. So this is where I'm teaching people that the second that discomfort arrives doesn't mean that that's where you have to be done. Water is going to be a phase where I'm teaching people that this is where the tension is, this is where work is starting, and this is where we stay in work, and we really stay inside of that RPE of that 6 to 8. So that's going to be really working on trying to make sure that you stay in that flow, and also that you can adjust to the flow. And that's important too. And that's something that is going to be the hardest part, I think, of Koach Kinetics, is teaching people how to manipulate our variables so that we consistently stay in our work phase. That's going to be one of our more tough duties, I guess. I don't know what's a good word for it. That's going to be one of the harder tickets to fill. There is going to be staying in that zone and not having it be something that is something that we fall out on. All right. So from there, guys, if we stay into earth is going to be much more where we're into our general. This is our general fitness for most people. This is where most people would consider like, oh, working out is going to be our earth phase. That's where we're going to be getting into our barbells. We're going to be getting our dumbbells. This is where we're going to be getting into our weight. This is where we're going to be shifting into our kind of 7 to 9 department as far as hardness goes. And we're going to be, moving into our much more traditional overall just workout zone. We're going to be working squats, hip hinges, pushes, pulls, loaded carries. And that's going to be earth in a nutshell, guys. It's going to be strength earned through the consistent pressure and our building mode. So that's going to be right where we're going to be in that zone of really working hard. That's also going to be like on our low rep kind of powerlifting vibe as well. That's going to be shifting into that type of situation. So, and also, guys, if I know there's only 3 of you in here, if you have any questions while I'm chatting away here, please shoot anything in the comments. I can come back to what I was doing before. Feel free. I will see it and I will respond to it. So then from there, guys, how does it work for fire? For instance, fire is going to be that high side of the mark. Fire is going to be the expression of our pure athleticism, in the sense that we are now moving physically fast. We are moving fast with load, and we are changing direction. We are changing speeds. We are changing everything. This is going to be an expression of our athletic culmination here. So this is where power is expressed through explosive work, through athletic motion, power production, and high intensity effort. This is where our RPE is going to be in our highest state. So we're going to be 8 to 10 here. Okay. So This is where everything has to be moved with intent. Speed and force are applied here. This is where you don't just jump into this, guys. This is where somebody is going to be involved who's been working out for some time, who is no longer in a place of the building the baseline. You can get into your power once you've established. You're no longer a beginner when you're in your power phase. You're starting to really get some work done and really be able to play around with the things that you built for yourself as far as your body and everything. It's cool. It's the actual expression of your athleticism, which I think is really neat. The hidden lesson here, guys, is most programs are used RPE just kind of randomly kind of regulate training. The reason why I want RPE to be something that is important and a little bit deeper than just keep this number in your head is because it's very important to understand the quality of the work that you do is going to dictate the quality of your result, right? And a lot of people don't tend to really focus on that from the very beginning. It becomes a thing where they go, this is what I can do. And they evaluate effort with how much they're getting done. And there's a lot of this exchange of what am I getting out of it versus what am I putting into it versus what am I going to get out of it in the future? And all of that all cycles in your head every single time you go to the gym. So the reason why it's important specifically, I think, for Koach Kinetics is because I really want my kinetic crew to understand that, guys, your effort is going to be something that's on a sliding scale. And if you have the ability to look at it objectively and to look at it as you're going to try your very best to do your best every day, that's all you can do. You can't bring the standards of past you into today's use life, right? So for instance, I had a weekend of wakeboarding and playing with the dog and going crazy and having like a really gnarly, fun weekend. It was totally rad. And I worked my butt off though, right? It wasn't a workout day, but I'm over here and I'm getting dragged by boats and stuff like that. Like I had a killer workout. So that's something to consider just in general. It's like, you gotta, like my next workout day, I wasn't going to be able to go super max. It's about adjusting. Where is my new max? Where can I have my max? But I want to hit my max. It's just that'll adjust sometimes, guys. So that's where RPE comes into play. All right. Now let's take a quick look. We got a couple of questions. Breathing question. Does it matter when you exhale versus inhale as long as you are? So that's a great question. So inhaling and exhaling typically is going to be something that's going to be based off of two equations. So, well, a few different equations. I don't know why I said two. Specifically, I think to answer your question, it's going to be based on the work phase. Okay, so let's take into consideration, let's pretend I'm doing a push here. Okay, so let's say that we're seated here. Just for this example, let's say I'm seated here and I'm doing a push. Let's pretend that this is an upright. We'll pretend that I'm in a chest press machine. Okay, so we're here. I'm pushing this chest press machine out, pushing, right? So a lot of times, and ladies who have given birth here might understand this reference, but you're going to breathe out during the work phase. Now, what do I mean by that? What is the work phase, right? We're working out, and that's a little bit confusing for some people. So I want to explain that. The work phase is going to be the part where you're pushing or you're putting the work into it, which means that there are three phases to a work cycle, one might call it. I don't know what the actual literal term is, but for each movement, inside of each movement, this chest press, if I'm weighted through a chest press, the work is this. So in that sense, you're going to breathe out, breathing out, then you're going to breathe in, coming here, breathing out. So as the muscles typically are in a form of contraction, which is the concentric part of the motion, is generally where you're going to breathe out. And that's just kind of a blanket. There are many situations where you're going to do things like bracing, which is, that's a different technique for squatting. That's where you kind of half fill because you have that core tension and it'll actually help your core and things like that. But that's a little bit more advanced. I think that this is a very basic overall question. And in that sense, you're going to breathe during the work phase. So you want to, if I could write this in here, there are 3 different phases to an exercise. Breathe during work. And what I mean by that is the concentric. So there are concentric, and you should think concentric equals contract, which is the work phase. And then there's the eccentric, which is you controlling the weight that you have. All right. So that is that, guys. Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody have any other questions? Did that make sense? Thanks for popping in there and throwing something in there. And if I didn't mention this, so you have your work, which is your concentric, then you have your pause, which is going to be at the top of the exercise, and then you have your eccentric, which is going to be you then under control, lowering the weight is your eccentric. Now, this is again where I'm jumping into play here, because you're going to run into people who are going to be like, oh, you only need to do like half rep, like they have a lot of like full extended half rep type vibes and things like that. And for me, for now, for general population, it's, I think, minutia that's going to confuse people to do that. I stand by full ranges of motion will lead you to full ranges of motion for your whole lifetime. So any sort of like partial reps or anything like that, time under tension reps, things like that, that's where you're starting to get into a little bit higher levels of fitness, which great. If you're there, fantastic. But for general purposes, I want to speak to more general population as opposed to getting into the wonderful little nitty gritty stuff. Once you get to a place, and that's a neat part of it too, is that you should really focus on, just trying to get to that place and then fine tuning. But a lot of people try to fine tune before they have anything to fine tune. You should be working out a year or two before you have to worry. Like you should be, in a place where you have made kind of those benchmarks. All right, locking knees. I know I shouldn't lock knees. But someone told me, was during leg press, how can I not lock my knees? So if you're running into situations where you are going too far in a range of motion, you might be able to adjust the leg press machine itself. That's what I would do personally, is to verify how far you are. Again, this is a situation where if you have an issue with locking your knees, and you can see that you're going too far, you adjust the length of motion just like a standard piston, right? So if your legs are straight with the seat adjusted to here, you adjust the seat so that you're a little bit closer so you can't extend quite as far. That way you'll stay in that non-extended fully range. But I know that some people have issues with hypermobility and things like that, and that's very tough, especially for newer people as well. So that is one of the harder things where a lot of people tend to get injured right at the beginning because they don't have that spatial awareness. So a good part of that, another little trick can be to use things that are going to give you that spatial awareness. For instance, if you can even help yourself put your hands on your knees a little bit, right? You're not really fighting it or anything, but if you start to feel that your knees are getting fully straight, like you could start to feel it, then give yourself that little reminder. You know what I mean? It's all about your spatial recognition of where you are. And that's the hardest part about knee locking, elbow locking, especially for people in populations that are hypermobile and things of that nature. It's always going to be something that's a little bit tough to deal with, which is why it's good to have either a you'll never hear me ever say that the best route for training isn't to just hire a personal trainer and have them on the floor with you. But also for what it is, it's just about being consciously aware. If you do all of the work that your trainer is doing, which is trying to keep an eye on yourself from multiple different angles, which you can do with a camera, and then also just holding yourself accountable and all those things, and you need to learn how to program, you need to learn how to do all those things. If you want to do that and do all the work, go for it. Otherwise, you should probably specifically to that's one of those hard ones where it's generally helpful to have a trainer or somebody, or at least a partner, keep an eye on you, help you out. But that, I would say, is generally something that you could mess with at a reference point and kind of go from there. Do we have any other questions, guys? Because I think I'll probably just land this at 9 o'clock. Sorry that there were a couple people waiting for me to get this started. I couldn't figure out how to open it. I know I'd set it up. I tried to get in there, and then when I went to look, it wasn't there. Whew. Well, hey guys, so out of 856 people I got subscribing, I got 3 of you here watching me. So I just wanted to say thank you for popping in here. Really appreciate it. Thank you for asking me some questions. I hope to be here next week also. That's what I'm going to attempt to establish to do here. So if you have some questions, I really would love to answer them to the best of my ability. What is that ability, and why am I somebody who's capable of doing that? I have 3 certifications currently. I have I'm a standard PT, my NASM PT, which I've had for over 7 or 8 years now. And then I also have a corrective exercise specialist certification. And I also have a behavior, if I could say it, behavioral. I have a behavior. That's that weird. Behavioral change specialist, which is really just kind of getting around the mindset of it, because that was one of the newer kind of certifications that I got, because it's really kind of gets into the psychology behind how and why you have to actually put a little bit of work into changing more of the mental side of fitness, which I thought was a really cool thing. And that's a huge part of Koach Kinetics in general, is to focus on the reality that, there are 2 halves to this coin. You have your mind and you have your body. And if they don't work together in this process, you are not going to get the end results that you want. So, guys, I got 2 more minutes. So, again, just want to say thank you. I appreciate it for popping in here. Thank you for interacting with me, Nancy. Appreciate you. Yeah, if you have any other questions, guys, feel free to shoot them on to any of my other videos, anything like that. I am able to now do this. I no longer have my general 9 to 5 that I had prior. So this year is the year that we're going to start getting the community, the Koach Kinetics community clan. See, that's 4Ks. Not gonna run into that bullshit. Yeah, we'll get it together. We'll start rocking and rolling. And hopefully, if you have any other questions, guys, we can get through it, and maybe we'll get a few more people in here. That's all I got for you. Thank you for having coffee with Koach, and I appreciate it. And take care. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kinetic crew. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.